Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here this Friday morning, getting ready to wrap up an interesting week we've had here on Panhandle Outdoors and all weather and all this, but things are looking good. Let's take a look first at our weather, brought to us by Gulf Coast Air Conditioning, Drew Pollard and a hard-working crew, taking care of our everyday comfort needs. Looking at a high today of 82 only, a low of 60, and check this out. The water temperature at the end of the pier dropped down to 81. That's a pretty dramatic, about a 4-degree drop. That's really dramatic, and we mentioned this a couple days ago about how we were anticipating this happening with October being here. Today's the last day of September. It's crazy now, September flew by. Our river reading is brought to us by Mountain Dew, low. The Apalachicola Bluntstown 2.6, and the Choctaw Careville 1.3, even went down a little bit further. We thought, we're going to get a lot of rain from the storm system, but obviously it's definitely Choctahatchee won't get any in that watershed. And looked at the watershed for the Chattahoochee River. They'll get some, so we should get a little bit, but they're not getting not like they did down south. But it'll be a lot of water flooding down there. But up in our area, I don't think we'll have to worry about the river being really overflowing for the next couple of days. So especially Choctahatchee, be careful on it this weekend if you're going out. It's going to be a beautiful day. It'll be nice and cool. It'll be a beautiful day to be out on the water or just getting outdoors anywhere. So our wind direction will continue to be in northeast about 8 to 10, and it's going to be going to keep the bugs away. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Got a few pictures I want to show you. Let's get started with this one. Anna Prevost posted this. I've known Anna for a long time, and she's talking to Thomas Lynch. Sometimes nature just makes you say, wow. I've been working this pure black coyote for a few weeks, and he finally came by in the daytime. Check it out. They're almost ugly, aren't they? All right, the next picture, Brad Kincaid, who was pompano fishing. Now listen, he caught a couple of pompano. Surf fishing, I want to show this because I'm going to talk about it in Fishing Report. Surf fishing in October, one of the best times you can go. So there's still some pompano out, and they're getting ready to make their run. Like I said, the water temperature dropped 4 degrees. So next couple of weeks, especially in the middle part of October, they'll be jumping in the boat. Clay Davis from Tarpon Rock Seafood, his wife, everybody's getting ready for a hurricane, and what does he do? He's a big old snake in his yard. So next time you go by Tarpon Rock, ask him how the snakes have been in the yard. He's taking care of them. Paul Thrasher threw his cast net the other day and got some mullet. He calls this mullet imperial. And that's the old timers eat a lot of that, mullet imperial. All right, the difference between an alligator and a crocodile. The one on the left will see you later, and the one on the right after a while. See you later, gator. Okay, so this is a really good picture of how you tell the difference. We don't have any crocodiles around here, but always, skinny head is always a crocodile. Billy Grantham sent this. He said his kinfolk had some yard dogs go missing. They thought it was a snake bite. They put the camera up, looky. I said, I asked Billy where he came from, and Billy didn't know for sure. Okay, so that's a couple of pictures there. I want to talk a minute about, I didn't get to finish this up the other day, about scallops. We had we're talking about, it just wasn't a good year on scallops. I'm going to read you this message sent to me. Okay, it's a pretty long message right here, okay? But I want to read it because it sort of depicts what we want to talk about. Okay, hey coach, some stuff to add to your scallop preservation list. A, several years ago you showed a scallop gauge. You showed that the scallop falls through the cut out opening in the gauge, then it stays in the bay. So basically set a size limit on them. If they can create a plastic gauge for measuring lobster, why not a scallop gauge? B, maybe an additional harvest permit for $5 for scalloping in St. Joe Bay only. Proceeds go to the replenishment of scallops. It would have to be specific for our area since it doesn't seem to be an issue elsewhere in the state. Now that's a good idea. I know some people won't agree with this, but the ones that really love it and want to preserve it for future generations may go along with it. I would go along with that. Okay, so anyway, that's from Big Phil. Phil Hathaway, one of my former honor students. Phil Hathaway, thank you for talking about that and sending that to me recently. This is a gauge. Let me see. I got a picture of the gauge right here. Whitney and I worked on this. This is interesting. Here's a picture of it right here. If it falls through, you know what to do. We made, and this is it right here, basically. So you see the size. It's a little bit bigger. We put a scallop shell on here. She traced it out, and we were able to cut it out. So we were trying to get the FWC to go along with the idea of just keeping the small ones in the bay, because even when the season opens, those small ones will be big enough to reproduce. And that was the idea behind it. Even though they're going to die out, they will still be able to reproduce. So all kind of little things like that. And Phil Hathaway, thank you so much. And that's why you were an honor student, for thinking along things like that. The big thing, here are the three things I wrote down. I saved it from my notes 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were talking about scallop. Number one, close the season for a year and let them replenish and get spread out over the bay. Number two was re-nourish, take some of that boat ramp money and just re-nourish the scallops and just get them, bring some in from other places. The Florida scallops, I mean, they're side by side down in Appalachia Bay, down around Steinhatchee. You could do that because we bring in, you know, we bring in redfish, we bring in trout, we do all kinds of things. In Deer Point Dam, we bring in carp, we're always bringing in other species, so we can bring in scallops. And number three, number three I talked about was a safe zone. Have an area, sort of, I would say the southwestern part of St. Joe Bay, have an area just had no scallop year round and have a safe zone. And we do that all through nature. We have no hunting here, no fishing here. Gulf of Mexico, a huge area for, we got some big grouper out there in that protected area, and that's why they did it, because and they were reproducing out there now, and just huge. And we could do the same thing in St. Joe Bay. So we got to do something, folks, and we need to tell everybody you see, from the county commissioners, the mayor and the city commissioners, and especially FWC, that something needs to be done, or we will not have any scallops left in St. Joe Bay before long. I'm positively sure of that. So we really want to do something, and it's been a tough year this year. So we want to take a good, strong look at that, and encourage everybody to have a good, positive outlook on it, and just try to do it. But thank you, Phil Hathaway. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. I just want to tell Carl Andrews, I'm still trying to look for those statistics I had on the scallop population every 4 years. So I'm still looking for it, Carl. I know you asked about it the other day. Now, let's talk about the tarpon. We had Ronnie Groom on the other day talking about being the first one to ever dive down on the tarpon, and I got to thinking, a lot of folks may not know much of the history on the tarpon, so I dug some stuff up last night, just familiarize yourself, because it was such a great fishing spot, and it still is some, but not like it was. I want to show you the actual picture of the boat tarpon, and here it is right here. It would come from Mobile. I mean, it would be full of passengers and supplies, and it was a big boat. It was a heavy boat and well built, and it was a steamer. And what they would start in Mobile. They would go from Mobile to Pensacola. The main route was Mobile, Pensacola, and come all the way to Pensacola to St. Andrews, right down there at the dock at St. Andrews. They would go from St. Andrews to Panama City, to where Tarpon Dock Seafood, right now, that's why it's called Tarpon Dock Seafood. They would, right there. And then they would go from here down to, they'd skip St. Joe, they'd go to Apalachicola, and then from Apalachicola they would go to Carabel, and then turn around and go back. And that was the route. It's interesting, they skipped Fort Walton Beach and St. Joe, because they really didn't have enough supplies, or didn't have enough people there to get supplies and all. But it's just an interesting story. And when it sank on September 1st, 1937, this book right here, Along the Bay, Marlene Womack wrote this book, and it just has wonderful history in it. She did a great story on it, and I've always, it's a late Marlene Womack, but she was such a help to me on my book and all, and she was just loved history. Originally from Massachusetts, but what a wonderful lady. We miss her. But also, my good friend, the late Captain Richard Holly, wrote this book, the last voyage of the SS Tarpon, and it, 360 pages. And Richard, I'm gonna tell you the story behind that. Richard and I would always have, we'd meet at Flapjacks for breakfast after I did the show, and before school started, I'd have this amount of time, so I'd go to Flapjacks, he'd put in there, and we'd always, every morning we'd have a cup of coffee and eat some scrambled eggs and grits and toast and just have a wonderful time. And that's sort of, we talked about history, he loved history, and that's sort of what, he got started on his book after I did mine. He loved mine so much, so he got started on what he did. He actually went to Mobile to the archives and got all the court records of how the hearing and all, how the coast, how the National Maritime officials had to do the procedures on it, and it was so interesting. And of course, Captain Barrow went down with the boat, and so did 16 other people perished. There's 17 total perished on that particular voyage, and it was. I got a picture. I found a picture out of Marlene's book. Here's Captain Barrow. Most people hadn't ever seen him. He was the captain, went down the ship, and that boat ran for like 30-something years, and it was amazing to do those kind of things in those days. And he was always on time. He made it a point. And I think probably what happened, he probably got in trouble with the weather, and he was always trying to be on time and all. And Richard did some extensive research on it, and I was looking at this last night. It brought back some wonderful memories of being in it. It was the weather, basically, that got him in trouble. It sank in. How deep? 100 feet of water. Ronnie Groom substantiated that when he went out there diving on it. So I just want to share that little bit of history out of the book. I didn't write a lot about it in my book because it had already been covered by Marlene Womack. So good history there, maritime heritage here in the Florida Panhandle. Now, let's go from that. I wanted to share again with you. I'm going to try to get the Buck of the Year, number 2. And here's the story on number 2. I covered number 1, I think, yesterday. Here it is right here, number 2. The picture, off of Woods and Water magazine. Number 2 made the Buck of the Year. Now, I don't know what on the cover. I'm sorry, made the cover of Buck of the Year, but it's a number 2 buck. And that is an interesting story. This is Joseph Johnson. I took some notes down. He's from Lynn Haven. And here's a score sheet on it. Let's see. It was number 2, he scored 139 points. And what was interesting, he would hunt mornings and his wife would hunt afternoons. But that afternoon, he asked her if he could go and get in the stand. She was busy. It was that afternoon he got it on, but he got it on December the 16th, which is unusual because most of them are taken in January. The article didn't say exactly where he got it from, but you can see on the cover here. But he's from Lynn Haven. Joseph Johnson. He called his wife when he shot it, and they had a bloodhound. They tracked it. Found it in 15 minutes. So that scored, I think, how many points did he score? Let's see. Okay, right here, scored 139 points, like I said, and then he didn't have much trouble finding it. So that was number 2 Buck of the Year. I don't know where he got it, but I do know number 1 was covered up there in Calhoun County. Number 2, we're not sure, but let's go to number 3 real quick, because there's not a story. Stephen Schofield got number 3. Folks, this buck came out of Calhoun County. The number 3 buck came out of Calhoun County, right here. On November the 6th, so we had one taken in December, one in November, and one in January out of Calhoun County. So that's, and we'll talk next week. I'll cover a couple more, and I'd like to go through the top 5 or 6 bucks taken last year, because 4 out of 5 are taken right here in this area in the whole state of Florida. So I think that's really cool for that to happen. Let me get ready for the drawings. We got a fishing report coming up, and we escaped this first storm, but it's sort of like, if you're like me, it sort of gives me a refreshing part about remember how to get ready for the storm. And Gail and I had already started getting ready, and I'd run down the Cape, put storm shutters up, and it's just, you just can't wait to the last minute. And I've learned that from years past going through the storm. So when we get those warnings ahead of time, when that storm hits the Gulf, we got to get right. That's always been my motto. When the storm hits the Gulf, get ready. Especially if the joke was they're going to rename Florida the ice cream state, because we're always in the cone. And that is true, that cone. But it was interesting to watch it. So we were spared this time, but we got to be ready. All right, speaking of talking dock, we're going to check out Clay, see what Clay's doing about them rattlesnakes. All right, the winner of the $20 gift certificate is going to be Micah Jones. Micah Jones. And a big red snapper. They're good this time of year. It's going to be Mark Bro from Bunker. Mark Bro over there in Bunker. I know y'all are having a good time over there and catching a lot of fish. All right, we're going to take our final break, come back and do our famous Friday fishing forecast. Okay, welcome back. Let's look at our famous Friday fishing forecast, and we'll try to keep it up to date and what goes on during the week. As you know, the big storm here and the effects of a storm on freshwater, basically it's not going to affect the actual water level, but what it will do with those high winds, especially coming from a different direction, it's going to be blowing trees down and limbs down, so be aware of that if you're trying to get up into some of those sloughs. So you'll have, I promise you, some limbs blown down from last time you were in there. Also on saltwater, what it's doing now, this is interesting, and in fact I've watched Nature all week, and they're still, it's blowing it out of the bay, and it amazes how the folks in the Weather Channel, they're acting like this is the first time it ever happened, that it's blowing out of Sarasota Bay. Oh my God, did y'all see that? It always happens for the past 100-something years. It always happened here locally, that documented, that it blows it when the wind's coming the other way. That's just part of it. But with that being said, it blows bait fish out of North Bay, northern part of the Choctawhatchee, especially Apalachicola Bay. They start blowing those bait fish out, but more in St. Andrew Bay than anywhere. And those bait fish will be down around the coastline. It just keeps blowing. So now what happens, you'll see, I didn't see any birds in my house, of course. The birds are down there close to Beach Drive in that area where the bait fish are. But here's what's interesting, when the water starts coming back in, those bait fish start coming up there in the northern part of the bay again, and it'll just be a natural migration. So I just wanted to share that with you, what's going on. Okay, getting to freshwater real quick. We're talking about, it's just, the river's low. I've talked about it for 2 weeks now. The potholes will really be good. On a big river, the sandbars are going to really be exposed. And I know Ray Howell, a lot of you folks will be up there on the sandbars this weekend, just having a good time. What a great time to be camping on the sandbars with this cool weather, great fishing. If you can just spare some time, you even can't camp out, just go spend some time on the sandbars and do some things with it, okay? So now, also let's jump back to saltwater. The biggest thing on saltwater, we're talking about October's here, basically, and surf fishing kicks off. And I wrote it down. You saw some pictures. I wrote it down. One thing again with this north wind, it's blowing the grass. We had some grass remnants in the surf. Now that grass is being blown back out into the. So grass is not going to be a problem, and so that's going to be really good. Try to set up. I've showed you all the surf fishing spots, so you know about that. The number one thing I want to talk about, though, and I'm going to run out of time, I should have done it first, is floundering. You've got we'll go through October the 15th, and it closes until November the 30th. So floundering is very important now. If you can go this weekend and next weekend, is going to be it as far as going. So you really, if you're fishing for them, or if you're actually gigging for them, and again, and I'm going to go zoom in we're talking about this every year this time of year. The fish, the flounder are coming out of the pass. They're doing the same thing in Choctawhatchee Bay and Apalachicola Bay. They're coming out, and the top places to be right now. If I was going to go this weekend, I'd hit that Beach Drive area and try to gig some up in there, and then I would definitely cut across here to Sandy Point and definitely hit this area right in here, and then back behind Shell Island. I can guarantee you there will be some flounder there. Whether you gig them or catch them, that's up to you. But I promise you there'll be some there. The same way over in St. Joe Bay, they're going to be hanging around, headed out of St. Joe Bay, and also Choctawhatchee Bay. There's going to be good floundering over there. So, my point this week's fishing report is really take advantage of nature as far as it's telling you to go after those flounder, I can promise you. So you can fish for them, remember moving it slow, but get in the drop-offs and get in the hot spots and move around, fish slow. Flounder, Crooked Island Sound, Apalachicola Bay behind St. George Island, those are all good places to go fishing and gig and all. Well, let's go over here. I'll show you real quick on St. Joe Bay real quick. Get around Black's Island, really. There's some good channels right there around Black's Island. And right in here. Okay, we'll talk about a lot around Black's Island. See those channels right there coming in there? Those flounder will be up around on the edge of those channels right there. So just replicate that situation right there. Replicate that in any of our bay systems where we have some deep water and coming up on the edges, those flounder actually migrate and actually move, and they're getting ready to go out into deep water and spawn. So floundering is going to be really good. I don't know if you can get out behind St. George Island, be good. Also bridge fishing. Bridge fishing is going to be really good this weekend. Have a nice breeze. The barnacles are sort of falling off real quick now because they've grown all summer, and you sort of knock them off and be good. But we're going to run out of time. We've had a great week. We've had an opportunity to we have had young people on the last 2 weeks. We have older people on last 2 weeks. We had a sort of combination of all kinds of different guests, and I'm just really proud to be able to do that. And I just appreciate the viewership, appreciate everything Jeff and Gail does to keep us on air. And we've got something good going on. I really appreciate all the good positive feedback. You do something good this weekend for your fellow man. You have a great day. Enjoy the outdoors, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.